grandmasters are generally very focused before the games, but if there are some kids, they kind of acknowledge them, because I think it reminds them of their childhood. Once when they were kids and they were looking up to these great players, and any acknowledgement from these great players meant a lot to them. So this is the reason also why Magnus often gives his autographs to kids, not to others when he's in a hurry. And there you have Alireza calmly taking his chair. He basically keeps one of his foot on the chair and keeps it in a specific direction so as to not let his injury aggravate. He has the white pieces today against Gukesh, and in their previous encounter, Gukesh and Alireza had a draw, and then in the Armageddon, it was Alireza who had scored the win. The tournament is really very interesting from the perspective of who will win it, because right now it's actually Wesley So who has a 2.5 point lead over the field. And will Alireza manage to win today and move up ahead? You have the youngster making the first move, pawn to e4, and Gukesh's youngster makes the move d5, Scandinavian, and Gukesh quickly takes it back. He's like, I am not going to play Scandinavian ever. Okay, guys, we are ready to rock and roll. Alireza with the white pieces, handshake, and the move that he begins with is pawn to d4. Gukesh goes knight to f6, and we have pawn to c4 played, e6 played, opening up the bishop, knight to f3 with the idea of d5. Queen's gambit declined, plays it, pawn to d5, knight c3 played, and now bishop e7 leads to queen's gambit declined, bishop b4 leads to Ragozin. He does play bishop b4, pawn takes pawn, and pawn takes pawn taken back. We have bishop f4 played. Now the main move here is castles, but there's also knight e4, which is an interesting move to put pressure over here, and Gukesh does go knight e4. He is in his preparation, both players playing quickly. Rook c1, the main move, and now knight c6 is played a lot, but Gukesh goes bishop f5, and this is a new idea. It's in fact a novelty, can you believe it? And maybe Gukesh has something prepped up. Alireza takes 14 minutes and plays e3, and Gukesh goes pawn to g5, clearly showing to Alireza that he's well prepared. And now h5 as well makes sense. This is when the knight on e4 creates a lot of pressure. He takes on c3 first, very interesting. B takes c3, and now h5. He pushes his pawn forward. Okay, important moment now. Queen b3 makes sense, plays it, and the best move for Gukesh is h4, because now if queen takes b7, h takes g3 gives black an advantage there. But Gukesh goes wrong. I think he kind of forgets his preparation, and Alireza, after a good 14-minute think, again snatches that pawn on b7, and Gukesh goes c6. But the problem, of course, taking here, Gukesh has seen that queen b6, knight d7 leads to a good position for him. But the point here is queen c7, a very strong move by Alireza, and suddenly Gukesh is in this very kind of sad position where after 35 minutes he plays knight d7, which clearly shows that he's unhappy with what he's got here. He somehow mixed up the move order, queen takes d8, and now he's a pawn down. But there is compensation. The compensation lies in the fact that the pieces are active. Okay, you want to somehow take this bishop so that the b8 square is in your control. Then he goes knight d2, and so a good idea now is to take on g3, hg3. So b1 square is covered, you can't take it, and then black goes in. So that would give good compensation, I feel. Gukesh takes, and I think that's a good decision by him. Alireza now captures back, and he gets a move because h5 pawn is hanging. So knight comes to f6, and we have bishop e2. He goes knight to b3. And white would like to go c4 at some point. Rook b8 played by Gukesh. I mean, if this was all part of Gukesh's prep, I would be very surprised. So Alireza could have improved his play somewhere. King g7. And now bd1 with the idea of trading the bishops so as to get the b file. Rook c8. Maybe Gukesh wants to go knight d7 and c5. I don't know what is his plan. Short castles. a5 played. Whoa. Because if knight takes a5, he wants to play bishop d3, rook e1, and rook b2, getting a lot of counterplay. So plays bishop c2, does not even indulge in taking this pawn. Takes. Rook takes. And now a4 pushes the pawn forward. The knight can jump into c5. And Gukesh goes a3. He's preparing rook b2. The knight comes back to b3, but now Gukesh's knight can join in the party on e4. And he plays it. Excellent play by Gukesh has resulted in him getting an equal position. Alireza goes c4. And he plays c5 even. Wow. That's wild. He goes rook c1. The plan is if you took cd, Gukesh wanted to push c4. So rook c1, cd taken. Actually, in a way, if you think, this game does remind me of Gukesh's younger days as a player, where he would get quite an inferior position out of the opening, but then would fight on and save the draw. And that's what he has done here. He's fought on and he's managed to get a position where it's roughly equal. King f6, he's getting his king in. And at some point, you have to be aware of takes and the a pawn running down. Rook check. King e7. He goes king to f1. And the king goes to d7. And now you can go rook a6. Trying to go after the a3 pawn. But I think the counterplay lies in rook c8 and rook c2. Yes, he plays it. Good move. And Alireza down to 6 minutes. Gukesh has 14 minutes on the clock. Alireza says, good or bad, I take the pawn. And rook c2, boom, enters in. And now knight to c5, offering a trade. Knight takes, pawn takes, and just take rook takes c5. And everything is quite fine now. Rook d3 check. Yes, this endgame is complicated, but Gukesh should be able to hold it because he has an active king, he has space, and he can put his rook behind the pawn. Rook e3 check, cutting the king off. Maybe here going to d6 or d5 better than going to f6. Yes, king d6, good move. Pawn to a4. The point is if rook check, he'll come back and then put his rook behind the pawn. So rook, king c6, he makes a mistake. Rook a5 was a much better move. Forcing it here and maybe then king c5 could have been a better defense. But he goes king c6, rook f3. And now f5 played. Alireza quickly gets his rook to e3. Maybe even rook a3 would have been a nice move, threatening to push. But rook e3. And now Gukesh plays rook a5. And he has his chances back. Rook a3, maybe king c5, king b4. Yes, he gets his king in. King e2 and king b4 played. Now the thing is, you can never capture on a4. If you take here, this pawn endgame is just losing. My king gets in and just captures all the pawns. But rook e5 is a big mistake. He had to play king c3, trying to keep this king at bay. But the moment he gives a check, it's all over. Because now, Alireza simply moves his king up. I think Gukesh's idea was to give a check again, push the king back and then maybe block the pawn with his own king. Yeah, king here. Check. Gukesh also down to 1 minute. He goes back. And now I guess he wanted to play. So there are checks. So the king has to go back to f1. And now rook, maybe rook a5 back again. Should be the best defense. Just go back. But he goes king b3 and he misses this moment. I think what he wanted was like a5, king b2. And then if rook a4, he wanted to come back and then this is hanging. So this is the plan that Alireza has, but he pushes the pawn that Gukesh has, but Alireza pushes the pawn. Gukesh goes in. If the rook moves away, he takes the a5 pawn, but rook a4. What's his plan? King b3. And well, Gukesh has missed this move for white. f4, a beautiful move. If king takes, pawn takes, that's a passer. So rook d5 and now rook a1. And this is the point. After king b2, he's going to play rook e1. Wow. Alireza, he's a genius. Rook takes a5 and he finds rook e5 here. Beautiful chess played by Alireza Firouzja. This entire sequence with check, king f2. King c3, take, everything's hanging here. He takes on g5. King d4, but it's too many pawns that are missing. King d5. He goes rook b5, cuts off the king on the rank. And g4 played with last 2 seconds on the clock for Firouzja. And rook f5. Check. This is lost now. King h2. He goes g6, he pushes the pawn forward. Rook comes back. And king h3, king h4 falling. It's going to be triple pawns on the g file, but there's no way to stop the pawns. Gukesh resigns and Alireza wins this. What a game this was. And I think the end game, especially the rook end game, is worthy of deeper study. It's quite a crazy end game. And well, for both Alireza and Gukesh, I guess they both were not completely sure what's happening, as would be true for any top player there. But Gukesh, well, his opening didn't turn out the way he expected, so he got not a great position. He's lost it. Alireza keeps his chances of winning the tournament alive with this performance. He moves to 13 points. On 14 is Wesley So, and on 12 is Pragnananda. And we'll see who manages to win Norway Chess 2026. as we leave you with some moments of the tournament and an interview with Firouzja.
It's not first class game. I think I have a big plus score against him. But yeah, I mean, it was a tough game, I think.
And you're playing that.
Alireza, what a way to bounce back. How important is this win against Gukesh for you?
Yeah, it was a very important game for me. I really wanted to win with white. I had so many blacks until here, so I have to really push for this game.
And where do you think was the critical moment where you started to, crumble?
I think in the end game, like, probably has to keep the king on the king side. I don't know. But yeah, it was a very interesting game. I don't know really.
And with this, you are well against towards the end, last 2 rounds.
Yes.
You have a huge lead. How does it feel going to mark the rest mark?
I don't have a lead, I think. I'm second place,
Yeah.
but no, I think it's good to chase the leader. I mean, Wesley played very well in this tournament. He has good results, but still we have the last game against each other, so...
I wish you good luck for the last 2 rounds.
Thank you. Okay, let's go.